What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the new year, and what better way to start the new year than by looking back at the one that we just left, because I definitely didn't run out of time to get this out in 2024. But my poor time management skills aside, we do need to anoint a bike of 2024. And if anybody who has been here for this before, the way that I do it is I talk about all of the bikes that I ride. Not every bike that's on this list is from 2024, and I rode a whole bunch of them, so let's dive on in. Now this year I rode fewer motorcycles than I anticipated. When I went back and looked at them all, I rode 25 different motorcycles this year. And here is that list real quick. So from Aprilia, we have the RS660, the 210 660, the V4, and my 210R Limited. So from Aprilia, we have the Solar Eclipse. We have both generations of the VMAX, which is pretty cool. Street Triple R, my KTM Enduro R, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. The Africa Twin Adventure Sport, the Transalp, a lot of Hondas this year. I rode a lot of Hondas. The CRF 250F, I rode both the CB-R 650R and the CB 650R, and then I rode the CB 1000R. Oh, and I forgot the CRF 450 RL, because that I rode for a day in Canada, and jeez, was that thing a beast. From CF Moto, we have the 450 NK and the 450 MT Ibex, the Ibex 450. Then we got the Can-Am Riker, the Suzuki GT750. That one was kind of cool. The Ducati Diavel, the Street Rod, the Sportster Roadster, the BTX Volt, and a BMW GS that didn't make the channel yet. That video has been sitting in my hard drive since June. I still haven't gotten it done. It's a massive video, guys. That one's huge, so stay tuned. Now again, the way this works is I take all of those bikes that I rode and I think about which ones made the most lasting impressions on me during the year. And that is how I determine whether or not one is at the top or the bottom. It's not necessarily the bikes from that year, it's just what motorcycles I rode. However, if we are gonna give a bike of the year to a bike from 2024, that hands down goes to the CF Moto 450 Ibex. The Ibex 450 is such an incredible value proposition for somebody looking to get into the adventure space. It is the cheaper version, the slightly slower version of the Yamaha Tenere 700. It has all of the stuff that you need. It has nothing that you don't. And most importantly, that bike has a single button to disable rear wheel ABS and traction control. It is perfect. I know how people are gonna react, being like, oh, bike of the year goes to CF Moto, what a sellout. Guys, CF Moto does not pay me for any of this stuff. I just really enjoy the bikes that they make. So much so that we actually added a CF Moto to the garage in 2024. That was the 2023 800 NK that I took to the track, that I reviewed, that Jake the Garden Snake had for a while. They're solid motorcycles. But that's enough of that. Let's dive into the top 5 motorcycles of 2024. And at number 5, I'm counting these as one motorcycle because I got to ride 2 generations, and it is the Yamaha VMAX. Not only did I ride my piece of shit VMAX for the first time this year, which was an unbelievable experience because it took me a year to get that thing running and rolling, I rode a 200 horsepower modern day version of the Yamaha VMAX. And that actually is one of the best performing videos from this year. It performed so well and it pissed off so many Harley people because that title was spicy. I find it hard to believe that you didn't watch that video, but if you did, go check it out. It was a lot of fun. Number 4 is a late entry for 2024. So late that literally the video went live on the 29th of December. And that is the Honda CB 1000R. The reason why I put that bike here is because I had never ridden it before. Not once had I ridden that motorcycle. In fact, I was one of the people who looked at the spec sheet and was like, why would I check this bike out? It doesn't make any sense when you could just get an MT10 or like You know, you could get a used Aprilia Tuono or something like that. But once I rode it, I realized how excellent that motorcycle is. It is such a good package. And I have heard that the comments section was very vocal about this, that the CB1000 has a lot of power to be added to it. You could put a tune and an exhaust on there, you change the intake just a little bit, and you really get a lot of power out of that motor. And frankly, that doesn't surprise me. It feels so understressed at 140 horsepower that you could probably add another 20, no problem. And at that point, you're talking about a screamer, because that bike is potent. It's got the power modes that I would want to see. It's got traction control, it's got ABS, and then it's got nothing else. It's really a pared back modern riding experience, and that's kind of hard to find nowadays. And I know a bunch of people mentioned that the new Hornet is coming down the line. Honestly, I hate the look of that motorcycle. Maybe it'll change when I see it in person, but looking at that bike, I cannot draw a direct line from that Hornet to my Hornet. They're just completely different motorcycles. As far as I'm concerned, the Hornet nameplate is kinda dead with this new one. It's a new bike. I still want to ride it if it comes to the United States, but I would probably prefer the CB just because it's prettier. And before I forget, we are actually giving that CB away right now. So you can click the link down in the description below to get yourself entered to win. That is a great way to support the channel if you're not interested in doing the whole Patreon subscription deal. And you get entered to win a motorcycle. It's a really fun way for me to give back to you guys a little bit. I'm getting, you know, to make some really cool content on a motorcycle with Fan of Them. And then one of y'all gets a super cool bike. The Diavel went to Nick in West Virginia, and here's a photo of him with the bike. Number 3, and this was my bike of the year, the CF Moto 450 MT. I already talked about what made this thing awesome, but again, it's just so solid for the price point, and I beat the shit out of mine to the point that the folks at CF Moto still are mad at me about what happened to that bike. It got scuffed up pretty good, and I'm sorry guys, but it was an adventure bike, and I took it on an adventure, and I had a little bit of a whoopsie daisy and some rocks, and that happens. But yeah, the folks at CF Moto are really mad still. They have not forgotten what I did to that motorcycle. But I will say, after what I did to that motorcycle, it did not complain at all. Not even a little bit. It was still totally happy. That really impressed me. That really, really impressed me. Number 2, and another modern motorcycle, the Honda Transalp. I rode the Transalp for like 1,000 miles in California. We started in Northern California in the Redwoods, and then we rode all the way down to the Honda complex in Torrance, just south of LA. And it was a really special ride because not only did I get to ride it a little bit off-road and see what it felt like in the usual environment people are taking a Transalp, but I also felt it in the twisties and I felt it on the highway. And it is one of the most capable out-of-the-box motorcycles that you can get. And it's not terribly expensive. The only real drawback I have against the Transalp is that right now they're only available in the United States in black and red. And I want a bright colored ADV. I want something flashy. Give me something flashy, Honda. Bring the HCR colorway to the United States and you'll instantly sell more of those motorcycles. I promise. But I will say, on that motorcycle, the twisty road handling is shockingly good. When we rode the road up to the Lick Observatory, which if you know what that road is like, actually here, this is from the CF Moto launch video. This is on Lick Observatory. They went to this road to film their 675 SS launch video. That's on the Lick Observatory road. That is an incredible mountain road that is like perfect for a supermoto, and that bike handled exactly like a supermoto. It felt so good. Now the number 1 bike was tough, and neither of these options were from this year, but I had to look at a motorcycle that made such an impression on me that I had to add it to the garage. And there's a few motorcycles that I added to the garage this year. There's the KTM, there's the Harley, There's the Aprilia, and I added both the Eclipse and the BTX Volt. There were a few bikes that came in, but only one of them am I positive I'm going to keep forever. There's only one motorcycle in the garage out there that's right now that is going to be my bike until it or I die, and that is the Aprilia Tuono R Limited. That thing is an incredible bike. It is unbelievable how good bikes from the early 2000s were. This was the launch year of the Tuono, and it had the most reliable engine ever put into an Aprilia in the form of the Rotax V990. Mine has a big bore kit on it, so it's making even more power. It sounds so throaty and mean. When you get on the gas, it picks that front wheel up effortlessly, almost like a Super Duke. And then if you just want to be chill, the bike is so chill. It's comfortable, it's easy to service. Everything that you wouldn't think about an Italian motorcycle, this bike has, with the sole exception of a dashboard that loves to reset itself. It is currently in kilometers per hour. I do not know how to get it back into American units. That bike truly is something special, even down to the fact that it is a numbered motorcycle. It is number 176 of technically 225, but there's only 50 of them in the United States. And that is really special. That is, it's so cool that you can just pick one of those up. And honestly, it wasn't that expensive for what it was. So it's a very special motorcycle. A part of my heart is always gonna live with that thing, and it will always be in the garage. Now, I've got two more things that I wanna talk about here. The first one is the best video that I made this year, and it is also the most underwhelming performing video of the year. So in May of 2024, I went to Canada and I rode with the folks from Traction E-Rag. I did 5 days of the most grueling off-road riding I had ever done. This was one of my first times on single track. Like, I've done a little bit here and there, but as far as I'm concerned, this was my first time cutting my teeth on a dirt bike on single track. And it was hard. These guys kicked my ass. But I made it through 5 days with a busted up knee because I hurt myself on the dual sport day. And the feeling of making it to the summit of Mount Greenstone and sitting in that cabin, it was freezing cold, bitterly cold to the point where it was almost snowing. And we're all just huddled in this. We start a fire to warm up our gloves, and it was special. It was really special, and I am so thankful to the folks from Traction E-Rag that they allowed me to tag along. And apparently they liked me so much, they're inviting me back. And this time we've got something special because you guys can join me. I'm doing their XT ADV training the first week of June. And if you want to come ride a motorcycle with me, this is a great opportunity. These guys are some of the best off-road trainers that you're going to be able to ride with. And the trails that we're going to be on are some of the best virgin trails in Canada you're gonna find. This is all out in British Columbia. It is staggeringly beautiful. And I will say the food that they have there is amazing. I'm sorry, I have forgotten your name. I forgot the name of the chef, but she does such a good job. And both me and Ben were sitting there eating and be like, this is like, I'd pay real money to eat this food. And it was just there in the morning and in the evenings. So if you want to get your ass kicked with me for 5 days in Canada, click that link down in the description below, because it is going to be a ton of fun. And it's going to be a massive character building experience. And some of us are going to have our moments. We're going to have our moments, but if you power through, I promise you, you will discover so much about yourself out there. It's a really unique experience. It is such a shame though that video only has like 15,000 views right now. So I humbly ask you, if you have not seen that, please go watch that video. It is the single best video I've ever put on the channel. Not only because the content is phenomenal in it, because, I mean, how could you point a camera at virgin trails in Canada and not get great stuff out of it? But my editor, Matt, did such a good job on this. It is almost like something you'd see on the Discovery Channel. It's solidly one of the best videos I've ever made in my entire career making videos, which is 5 years now, 5 or 6 years. This is the best one. So if you haven't checked it out, please do give it a look. The link will be down in the description below. Even if dirt riding is not your thing, I think it's just a really cool video because of how it's cut together. It's cut together so well. But now let's end on something that is kind of lighthearted, sort of. The biggest disaster of the year, because there has to be something that just fails so spectacularly that it stands out in my mind. And I know a bunch of you are gonna think that the VMAX is the biggest failure, and believe it or not, it isn't, because I just rode that thing yesterday for like 200 miles. I had to fill up 3 times, but yeah, that bike works, except for the front rotors, which are bent, and the front suspension, which needs to be rebuilt, and the rear brake, which needs to be rebuilt, and the front calipers, which need to be rebuilt, and the new set of tires that I need to put on a new set of rims that I bought, and the carburetors need to go back in for a tune, and one of the valves is rattling. That's like, I already talked to the guy. Doing the valves is like $1,000 on that bike, maybe 800. So I think we're still looking at like $2,500 on that bike. And I've already spent like $7 grand, I think, on it. Maybe more than that. That bike has cost me more than my 2.0 did. Just let that sink in for a second. But still, that is not the biggest disaster of the year. The biggest disaster of the year goes to Get On ADV Fest, and it has nothing to do with Get On ADV Fest. That is my favorite event that I go to every single year. I love hanging out with people there. Being at the Buffalo Chip is fun. They have all these manufacturers who descend on the chip for a weekend. Harley Davidson has been there for years. Suzuki was there for the first time. There were like 7 manufacturers that showed up. Like Nelson Rig is there, Wild Ass is there, Continental is there. It's just a really fun event. And this year, the guys from the chip actually got the tickets out now. They are available now. So if you want to go, click the link down in the description below. I will be there whether or not they invite me back. I'm not shouting this out because they're paying me or they're comping me some time up there. No, I'm shouting it out because it is one of my favorite events ever. So if you're interested, click that link down in the description. But this year, I bought my KTM 690 Enduro R almost entirely so I could take it to Get On ADV Fest. That was the whole point of that bike. I mean, down the line, I'm gonna put Supermoto rims on it and I'm gonna show how flexible a dual sport motorcycle is. Because there's some of the best bikes out there that you can buy if you want a bike that can do literally everything. I checked the bike out. I did a really good job here in Austin before I left. It only had like 400 miles on it. And I made sure that the fluids were good. I made sure that all the systems were working. I put the Compan dashboard on there. I put a bunch of crash guards and stuff on there. I made sure that it was spick and span before I took it out there. And then I get on a trail. I'm about 10 minutes, maybe even 5 minutes in, and I look down and the bike has overheated. The water temperature light had gone on and my oil temperature was at 240 degrees. So the bike had thoroughly overheated. And I will say, during those first few minutes before the overheat, I was flying on the KTM. I really was. It was one of the best off-road experience. I felt like I was just on a street because the bike is so capable, and I had just come off of Canada where I had learned so much about how to ride properly off-road. So I was so much more equipped as a rider to just tear it up, especially on these medium trails, which weren't single track, but they were basically wide ATV trails. And as soon as I saw the overheat light, as soon as I saw it, I just knew in my brain that I was not gonna be able to ride that motorcycle off-road for the rest of the weekend, that it was just shot. So I drove 18 hours there and back for 3 days with a motorcycle that didn't want to ride off-road for the biggest off-road riding event of the year. And CF Moto allowed me to play with their 450 MT for an afternoon. That was when I broke it. Didn't break it, I beat it up. It's a difference. But man, I was so mad at the KTM that my blood pressure shot through the roof and I could taste blood in my mouth. I tried to keep it contained for the camera because when I get mad, you guys think you've seen me mad, but I do potentially have an anger problem. It's bad, it's real bad. So that bike is currently working. I've tested it and I've had 2 guys rent it in the intervening time. I'm gonna do a whole video of fixing the water cooling system on that bike. There's a shim kit and a better impeller and all that stuff, and it should really help keep the bike cool, especially down here in Texas. But that bike is frustrating, and it really doesn't help that KTM is having the year from hell right now. It's extending, it's becoming 2 years from hell right now because they got 250,000 motorcycles unsold right now, and their debtors are trying to get them to pull out of MotoGP. Shit doesn't look good for KTM right now. But that's gonna wrap up our retrospective look at 2024. Let me know what you wanna see in 2025. We've got some really cool stuff. I'm gonna be finishing the VMAX. I've got the Sportster build happening. I've got a whole bunch of bikes lined up in the next 2 months that I wanna ride. I'm gonna be doing so many ride reviews because I actually didn't ride that many different motorcycles this year. So I wanna ride a lot more, and I wanna experience more cool stuff. And I wanna do more fun stuff. Like I've got a video that's in the pipe where I talk about all the most popular engine layouts and which ones are the best and why. If you're having fun, do me a huge favor. Click the subscribe button, hit that notification bell. I don't ask very often. I'm gonna have to start asking because the subscriber counts have sort of flatlined a little bit, but it's still been up and to the right. It just hasn't been growing the way that I want it to. So I'm gonna be doing a whole bunch more work in 25 to make the channel more fun, because I look out at all of the other motovloggers out there and everybody's in a niche. And somehow I have managed to make a channel where I can ride any kind of motorcycle in any category, in any way, and y'all enjoy it. And that is really special to me. I can ride on a racetrack, I can ride off-road, I can ride a giant cruiser, I can ride a fucking Grom, and you guys will watch the videos because I love showing everything about life on 2 wheels. And it would be really a bummer to just have to do one kind of riding. And I'm very thankful that you guys have made it so I can do any kind of riding. I'm working on some more fun ways that I can give back in 25, and yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up here. This video is getting long, so I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.